back, baby! Bonelab is arguably the most hyped VR game of all time, and Half-Life Alyx fans, don't murder me. It's just a different beast. Half-Life Alyx is an amazing game and did a lot for VR, but it came out at a time when it was PCVR only. VR was much more niche at the time, I mean much more, and it doesn't have what Bonelab has going for it, and that is multi-platform, including standalone VR, and according to this footage that was shared by the developers, it's looking pretty damn good on the Oculus Quest 2, or Meta Quest 2, whatever. It's looking great. Now, being out of town for this weekend, I did get to enjoy seeing all the news about Bonelab, but I had more fun looking at the reactions, and the reactions from gamers and developers were a little bit different, but they're both onto something, they're both right, and this is a feel-good piece. Enjoy this. VR is back, and VR is feeling good again, but we need to talk about Bonelab and why it's so important. Now, from the gamer side, I think this is gonna be obvious, right? And it's all about the feels to me, and this is all about the feels, right? VR is that dream that we all talked about, right? A lot of us, I'll speak for myself, a lot of us but myself, I got into VR because I wanted to enjoy games. I wanted to enjoy games, but not the way that I've always traditionally played them. I wanted to be in there. I wanted to be present, and I just wanted to become the character and live out some fantasies, whether, you know, whatever the fantasy was, violent or not. I wanted to live those out. And the original Boneworks did all of that. It gave the physical presence of self, the physics, the soundtrack. I felt like I was the character, and that was amazing. And I think over time, people have been able to experience Boneworks, but not everyone did. And it became kind of a movement when Bonelab became in development and they started sharing teasers that people felt connected to this entity, to this IP, basically. And they want to become this character and see where this goes. And I think that is why gamers are rejoicing so much. So a lot of the hype you see, it's not about the game being the best game in the world. We'll talk about that in a second. It's not about everything being perfect or being the next blockbuster that will change VR forever. It won't. But it does something key for VR, and it fills a void that I'm excited for, and I'm going to talk about. But before I get to the summary here, because it's going to be a quick video, what are developers saying about the game? And I thought that was something super interesting, because when I go through, you know, developer Twitter or a couple other circles, the conversations are a little different. There's a little bit less hype, and they're looking at it from a different vantage point. There's nothing wrong with that. To many of them, it looks like a tech demo, and I'm not going to get into that much because maybe they're right, maybe they're wrong. I don't know, but I can see and understand where they're coming from for the tech demo standpoint. But where they look at is Bonelab does, unfortunately, for some people, go outside some of the best practices out there. Let's talk about those. So IK, the full body IK, it is what it is. To some people, it's an amazing thing, and it's an immersion providing benefit. I do personally fall into that. I love IK systems, but to others, it's a hindrance. I can guarantee you that in Bonelab, there will be times where elbows get stuck in positions they shouldn't, making the game harder than it should be. Also, say, looking down and seeing a giant chest in your face, and I'm not talking a woman chest, I'm talking just kind of disproportionate chest where you don't even see your feet. Stuff like that can happen and throw some people outside the experience, but I say the sum of its parts, I typically can view past those. But IK to a lot of developers something real, something they pay attention to. In addition, I think we can't ignore the fact that Bonelab will, and I'm not even gonna sugarcoat this, Bonelab will cause some people motion sickness, and not just a couple people. It's going to cause people motion sickness. It is a game that many people are not ready for. Physics systems are hard. IK systems are hard. Everything you do in that game, vehicles are hard, and Vection is going to cause sickness for some people, and that's a big deal to developers, and they're not being too cautious about that. I fully believe them. Commercial viability is extremely hard in VR. This is a game for enthusiasts first, and enthusiasts will always keep a certain ceiling that Bonelab will succeed at. There will always be an enthusiast ceiling that keeps this game moving, keeps this game alive, and there will be new blood that comes into it and has a blast. But there will be a lot of people who come into it and have a bad time. Now, that kind of, I'm just going to get right into the summary here. I'm done. This video is just about over, guys, because I'm just excited. Why is this game so good, though? Why is it so important? Is it fills a void. In the litany of games like Pistol Whip, like Beat Saber, like Super Hot, and I'm trying to name OGs because I don't want to call any newer games out. But these games that take an extreme caution, in game design, in concept design, in movement, in comfort, because they need to be commercially viable and applicable to many. It's really important to them, the new user onboarding experience, for commercial viability. Yes, does that mean that I'm saying that only enthusiasts will buy Bonelab? No, absolutely not. Many will. It will absolutely be a commercial success for Stress Level Zero. I have no doubt about that. But it'll be interesting how it grows over time and how people respond to it and how it just does. And what I'm trying to get here at, you can tell I'm not scripting this because I'm just extremely hyped about it all. At the end of the day, when you look at the App Store, to me, what is a very healthy store is just a variety of titles. Basic ones that are super comfortable, ones that are sort of pushing the envelope, and whether you call it a tech demo or not, games like Bonelab that, unfortunately to some and fortunately for others, bypass a lot of the best practices that make VR more accessible to people and take that chance to show what can be done regardless of the consequences it might have. A lot of people will say that's a bad thing. A lot of people will say that's a good thing. I think they both meet in the middle to the exact reason why Bonelab is so good, is it does move VR just a little bit forward and potentially will show bigger studios what commercial viability can look like with systems that are maybe not designed for new users. And maybe those larger entities can take the learnings from those, do them a little differently, a little more comfortable, but a little more extreme, and just provide us better and better products. If you only get games that focus on the most comfortable settings to the newest users, VR will grow, but maybe not as fast and not as fun as some OG enthusiasts would like. So I like the variety, and Bonelab is filling a void of titles to me that we really need. I would love to see a little bit more of these over time. I don't want all games to go the Bonelab route because I think that's too extreme for VR viability and adoption, but I'm really glad someone's taking the chance. I'm excited. I'm going to have some daily videos coming every day, Monday through Friday, I think. But it's going to be very hard playing Bonelab so much. So let me know your thoughts on Bonelab and what you think of the reaction to it. I'm excited, guys. See you next time, Space Cowboys. Peace.